Thursday, the 3rd of July, 2025, and I have a lot to cover. I didn't cover it yesterday or in the last few days because I was focusing on Travis Decker, Wes Rowley, and that whole situation, and I thought it was very important, especially because, again, there are firefighters, people that are of service, heroes that were murdered, and it would be really nice to find out the what actually happened. And so I'm going to start with Ottawa, Canada. This is from Dave Gordon, JNS staff, anyways. I've talked about this on my social media, but not on Rumble, I don't believe. The city of Ottawa fired a 46-year-old man, identified as Ian Aspenleader, from his role as a city lawyer. He was a city lawyer in Ottawa, a legal advisor, and he was accused of vandalizing the city's National Holocaust Monument on the 9th of June. Ottawa police stated that the man, who was scheduled to appear in court on June 28th, again just a few days ago, is accused of mischief to a war memorial, mischief exceeding $5,000, about $3,500 US, and harassment by threatening conduct. It added that the department's hate and bias crime unit was leading the investigation. Mark Sutcliffe, the Ottawa mayor, stated on Saturday that while it's encouraging to see that the police investigation into the incident at the National Holocaust Monument has progressed, I'm very disturbed to learn that the person charged is a city employee who was on leave. He has since been fired, obviously, because he got caught. And again, you wonder why people like Viva Fry left Canada. He was operating out of the Montreal area, a lot of connections to Ottawa as well. He was an attorney for many years and living in Florida now. And I'm sure a big reason why he left is because we have such a leftist, propagandized, respectfully insane legal system at this point, especially in Ottawa, especially in the major cities like Toronto and Vancouver, etc. And this is a two-tiered justice system. And when they don't get their way, these clowns do things like this in order to incite hatred, try to blame it on other people, but they're getting caught. And so this doesn't surprise me at all. And it's frustrating because people like myself and Helen Bruce and countless others have been targeted by law enforcement and by legal advisors, etc., because of sharing the truth, exposing the truth that goes against their narratives, right? And this isn't even just a legal system. I'm hitting on them a little bit because, again, they're not doing their jobs respectfully. There are some that are. There are hero lawyers out there. They're few and far between in the major cities, especially in the swamp we call Ottawa. And I have firsthand experience myself in trying to deal with this, and very, very frustrating. But anyway. I'm just going to put this down. And even when I was trying to get a lawyer, whether it be a criminal lawyer or a civil lawyer, I was trying to sue Taggart. And because, again, they have a monopoly on destruction of Ottawa and the surrounding areas. They have shredded millions of trees, especially since 2020. And I've talked about this before, and this is pushing an agenda and a narrative that is going to collapse Canada even further. Our housing crisis, it's bad. Immigration crisis is bad. And again, these builds, these new developments, etc., that people like Mark Carney are profiting off of from his Brookfield Management Assets company and countless other companies. Again, they're part of the problem. So people are blaming a specific religion for all the problems that Canada is facing. And respectfully, when you have guys on the ground that are shredding trees on protected sites in and around major cities, and 96% of the people that are going into those areas are immigrants, and again, that are voting Liberal. Again, this has been propagandized as well. You have literally directly enabled the hollowing out and destruction of our country. And I tried to sue Taggart. Okay, and they were targeting people like myself that were exposing the truth, lying to law enforcement, and law enforcement eating it up, even though I had videos of them even harassing me, like literally in my own home harassing me, and nothing was done about it. So even when you actually have crimes on the record, they don't care if it goes against the narrative. And so I hope someday they do get sued. I tried to get lawyers in Ottawa. No one wanted to touch it. They were trying to claim that they're too small of a company, or that it would be too much money. I would lose more money. I'm like, it's not about money. I don't care. Like, if I go in debt, this is important because they're destroying our country. And nothing was done. And I'm still going to push for this, and I'm still going to expose these clowns that have done this. And then even amending like district boundaries, etc., for voters. Again, this has all been so friggin' disgusting. And again, these are Canadians, mostly Canadians, that are the ones that have been doing this for these smart cities, for the biodigital convergence. And again, people wonder why the Liberals won. Well, Taggart, you're a big part of that. So thank you. And again, this is not to slam construction companies. Again, like I have a lot of blue collar families, including my brother-in-law that's been doing construction for decades, and an incredibly good person, building, repairing infrastructure, not shredding trees on heritage sites, protected lands, and like even church areas, cemeteries, national wildlife preservation areas, etc. And for these little builds, these cookie cutter houses, and look at the housing crisis and look at our immigration crisis. So we name people, but do they ever get held accountable? No. Oh, I'm just doing my job. Just doing my job. No, you're not. And so people that needed repairs done to their homes throughout this period, impossible to find people to work and actually do repairs for damage that was done or incurred even by people like Taggart, because when they were shredding the trees, you're allowing wind to impact houses that were otherwise protected prior to by things like the trees and things like that that they've shredded. And so roofs blown off their homes, sheds destroyed, windows destroyed, etc. And we are the ones that are having to pay for the damage and wait for the insurance companies to come back with a little bit of money, but you're still paying the deductible, whether it be $500 or $1,000 or $2,000. That's out of your pockets. And will Taggart or Mattamy or Minto pay for that? No, they don't, and I know that for a fact. And they don't care, and they don't care. And so even if these clowns are voting conservatives, like, you're not helping, because, and again, likely none of them are. Anyways, I'm going on all these rambles. I went to the civic hospital yesterday, not for myself, and I noticed all of these map flags all over the building. This is a hospital. This is a hospital that's supposed to be providing so many different services to people, and I don't understand why these map flags are throughout. Did I see any Canadian flags? No, I did not. And then I'm seeing literally right beside reception desks about like protecting people's safety. This is a safe zone, and respecting people's pronouns. The they, the them, et cetera, et cetera. And I wanted to take a photo, but cameras are not allowed. Of course not, because you don't want people to call this out. You are a health facility. Okay, you have no business propagandizing your space and alleging that it's a safe space. So unless you use the word they, then it's now a hostile environment. It was also ridiculous to me yesterday. And then the reception staff complaining about Trump. Literally, it was just a joke, and we didn't say anything about it. It was just like, oh yeah, haha, but Orange Man bad. We didn't say that, but it's just ridiculous just how many people in Ottawa are so brainwashed, and it's people that are in the legal system, it's people that are in the healthcare system, it's people that are in Senate, it's people that are in cabinet. And again, these are the people that are ruining it for the rest of us, people that actually have jobs. And anyways, I shouldn't say that, but we're actually assisting Canadians and not pushing propaganda and bullshit and pseudoscience. So anyways, I'm going to get into Kim Pate, because this is just more of the same ridiculousness that Ottawa's facing. And so I'll get here first. Again, I'm all over the place right from the get-go. I should make more notes, because when I go on these rants, sometimes it makes no sense. So my apologies for that. I think this is the thing. Okay, so S as in Sierra 206, 45th Parliament, first session was on the 26th of May, 2025. An act to develop a national framework for a guaranteed livable basic income. Sound familiar? How did CERB work out during COVID, when you were giving people over $2,000 a month to stay at home and do nothing? Unemployment rates are through the roof, etc. And it was taxpayers, again, that are the ones that foot the bill for that. And again, the living expenses have gone through the roof in so many different ways that I have so many videos on this. So it's at its second reading. And House of Commons, there are currently no recorded votes for this bill. That's a little bit interesting. So it was Kim Pate Independent Senators Group that did it, and again initiated this. And so I just wanted to share this before I get into what the actual bill is, because it's deeply concerning. All right. Okay, I'll just scroll down. Motion to agree to the following divisions. Second reading, date adjourned, honorable, not honorable. Kim Pate, I think is how you pronounce it, or Pate, I don't know. Move second reading of Bill S-206, an act to develop a national framework for a guaranteed livable basic income. She said, Honorable Senators, the latest research reveals that Canada spends upwards of $92 billion per year paying for measures that keep people stuck in poverty instead of investing in approaches that would allow them to rebound. If you look at what we did, especially during COVID, big problem there. Mark Carney hollowing out the middle class, key industry, big problem there as well. Canada spends billions of policing access and monitoring recipients of social assistance schemes that provide too little. We spend billions on emergency health treatment for people who lack housing, healthcare, and food security, the resources to treat preventable conditions, and on jail cells filled with those who are poor, homeless, and dealing with mental health and addictions issues. We lose billions in undeveloped economic capacity and on tax revenue from those we have ignored instead of including and empowering. So she's alleging that giving people 17 and up over $2,000 a month, that's going to help Canada, and it's not. We've already been there. This is such a communist, socialist, Marxist push, and this has never worked. This has never worked, and it's going to be the taxpayers that are going to be footing the bill, and they're going to leave Canada because they cannot afford this. So anyways, it goes on from there. I've already linked this on X if you want to see the whole thing. But guaranteed livable basic income. I remember when I was a kid, I basically was working like essentially out of the friggin' womb. Like I was strawberry picking, raspberry picking, tutoring. I was babysitting. I was doing the wood, doing the hay. Super cheap friggin' manual labor. These were hard jobs. And then as soon as I got my social security number or whatever it was, I was working at McDonald's at like 15 or 16 years old. Then I was working at the bio lab. I was working while going to high school. Okay, so I would go to school, I would get off the bus, I would get on a public transport bus or take my bike, and then I would go to work, and I would work from 4 to 12, 4 to midnight, and I would work weekends. And because I wanted and needed money. And then I joined the military basically at 19 years old and served for 15 years, got out, incorporated, was working right away. And until I doxed myself, around the Freedom Convoy time, I was still getting contracts, but after I was speaking out on COVID and the mandates and the lockdowns and the extreme measures and the forced inoculations and the VAERS, the vaccine adverse events, and the fertility issues that were being caused by it, and all the other problems, I started not getting any of my contracts renewed. Or new contracts, even though basically every freaking day I'm saying, call me. I would like to even do courses where I'm educating people within the House of Commons on a lot of the propaganda that they're spewing. I'm trying to reach that level so that I could talk them through things like what actually happened during COVID, things that actually happened during 9/11, things that actually happened during January 6th because it impacts us as well, things that actually happened during the Freedom Convoy, etc., etc. They don't care. They don't listen. They don't care. And so this is where we're at. And so Kim Pate, if people want to reach out to her and obviously respectfully and peacefully, like don't be an idiot, just share your concerns in a coherent manner. This is how you can reach her. So telephone number 613-995-9220. Her email is kim.pate or pate at sen.parle.gc.ca. And so anyways, you've got the ability to contact her yourself or her office. And again, be respectful, address your concerns in a coherent, logical manner, and just discuss how communism and Marxism and socialism has essentially killed more people and caused more suffering throughout history than any other system there has ever been in place. And I mean, maybe don't use those words exactly, but you know what I mean by that. Speaking of COVID, again, I'm all over the place here. The Order of Canada. Of course, people know I was going to talk about that. It's so disgusting to me that Bonnie Henry, Theresa Tam, and others are recipients of the Order of Canada for their actions during COVID. They have been responsible for the harm and death of countless Canadians, and they are getting the Order of Canada. Not people like Helen Bruce, not people like Tamara Lich, not people like Jeremy McKenzie and so many others. No, no, it's the people that actually enabled a pandemic to destroy lives. And still there's no accountability. They're never going to get like their time in the courts because they're being protected at this point by people like Mark Carney, who was the financial advisor during COVID. People, and again, our economy sucks now and has sucked for years. And like when he was working at the Bank of Canada, the Bank of England, even the former Prime Minister of England was saying that he sucked at his job, hollowing at the middle class, stealing taxpayers' money, and it was only benefiting his super nationalist, elitist, entitled friends and family. Brookfield Assets, Goldman Sachs, Bilderberg. He's part of WEF. He's hired Evan Solomon to be the minister of AI, a new position. Ridiculous. And then you have the US, where they're putting a moratorium for at least 10 years on AI, which is a very smart move. And this, I think, largely because of people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who stood up and voted against this push, this biodigital surveillance push. And this is largely being influenced by people like Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, who also had large investments in Rumble. Again, I'm all over the place here. And who's connected to Netanyahu as well. And speaking of that, like my video on the BB files, had so many views on it, so many likes, and I had to contact Rumble in order for it to be seen, because when I first originally posted it, as soon as I finished it, couldn't see it, and I'm like, that was weird. So I reached out to Rumble. I'm like, I didn't delete it this time. Like I've done nothing I think that is wrong with it, and I've also put in that the fair use like advisory and note even prior to sharing the video. And then again, I was looking for it yesterday because I was going to share it with a friend and can't find it. So again, I'm reaching back out to Rumble, but I'm like, well, I'm really calling out Netanyahu and his crimes, and Peter Thiel is connected to him, and he, and so like maybe there is something there. I don't know. Anyway, the Order of Canada. So all I did was just put the tag word COVID in, and 3 popped up. So Stephen B. Lucas is also someone that was nominated. Sorry, he's now a recipient. And Stephen Lucas is a retired public servant and accomplished government leader. Lies. His contributions have had a lasting impact on Canadians. That's not wrong. Not in a good way, though. From his work as a geologist exploring the Canadian Shield to his collaborative leadership as Deputy Minister of Health Canada during the COVID-19 pandemic. I want to know who nominated these people. That's something I was going to look at before, but again, I didn't have time because I wanted to get this out for around 10 a.m. Bonnie J. Fraser Henry, Victoria, British Columbia. Bonnie Henry has been using her expertise in public health and preventative medicine to safeguard the health of people in Canada and globally for decades. Notably, as provincial health officer, she led British Columbia's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. She is also an author, scholar, and University of British Columbia clinical associate professor, and a big liar. A big liar. All throughout COVID, lied about the fertility issues, lied about the this being safe and effective, lied about not being if you got the vaccine, you're not going to spread it. So much more. Theresa Tam, Ottawa, Ontario. For decades, Theresa Tam has striven to advance global and national public health as a pediatric infectious disease specialist and public servant. Her tenure as, I want to vomit even saying this, but anyways, her tenure as Canada's Chief Public Health Officer has been characterized by her commitment to health equality and highlighted by her leadership role in the country's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. She's a traitor to our country, and she's gotten the Order of Canada. There's others as well, and a lot of it's DEI, woke, initiatives. But yeah, this is the media during COVID era. And again, people still need to be held accountable. We still need people. We need good lawyers and good judges to push this so that people like Theresa Tam and Vera Etches and Patty Hajdu and Bonnie Henry, that these people are held accountable. They are traitors to our country. When it comes to empathy for the unvaccinated, unvaccinated COVID patients do not deserve ICU beds. I have no empathy left for the willfully unvaccinated. Let them die. I honestly don't care if they die from COVID, not even a little bit. Yeah, there was just so much going on here. And over 86% of people were in agreement that like they hated the unvaccinated. And you're welcome, because we took a lot of heat for you and your rights. And look at everything that's coming out now. I've shared the VAERS. I've shared the fact that we weren't aspirating needles. We've shared the issues with with fertility, and so many other people now are speaking out on it, including CDC finally admitting it, Public Health Canada as well. They're admitting it, but we're in 2025 now, and none of these people are going to be held accountable. And it's in such poor taste that these people that were pushing this have gotten rewarded for it. Absolutely disgusting.
Come one, come all. One, come all. Welcome to the Clown Show. Look who's going to be nominated for the Order of Canada. Our former Health Minister, Theresa Tam, and BC, British Columbia's Health Minister, Bonnie. The two women that applied the strictest, most insane COVID rules anywhere in the world, where people lost their lives, they lost their homes, they lost their jobs, they lost their families, they lost everything. And Bonnie, who still won't hire healthcare workers in British Columbia unless they had 3 COVID vaccines. You see the upside down world? You see that these two women who should be in jail are actually going to get an award for being so wonderful. So upside down clown world is real. It's demonic energy. It's just like when Hitler was on Time magazine as Man of the Year. And people buy into this. If you cannot see upside down world and clown world, I don't know how to help you. But the fact that these two are going to be getting an Order of Canada for what they did to people is mind-blowing. Welcome to Canada. Elbows up, everyone. Elbows up, Canada.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to share more about what's been coming out about these inoculations. I'm not calling them vaccines. They were not. But before I do, if you are just as disgusted as I am about these people getting that, then again, I will reiterate, be respectful, be peaceful, because even if you're a little bit irritated or anxious when you're calling them, I'm sure they're going to get the full arm of the law to freaking go to your house and, and intimidate you. And so I don't want that for people, because again, we have a two-tiered justice system still in Canada, especially in Ottawa. And so, but I would absolutely contact, because it's the nominations are provided to the Governor General. And so the contact information, 613-993-8200. And if you want to email and provide data, like I have before countless times, you can do it at info@gg.ca. And even share that even Public Health Ontario was manipulating the data, lying about the amount of deaths and infections, and they were actually increasing the alleged rates by over 600% in some age groups, anywhere between 300 and 600%, and the deaths by at least 50%, right from the get-go. And so yeah, if you want to share your dissatisfaction in that, please do, because again, we need more people to speak up and out in a respectful, peaceful, coherent way to hold people accountable. I don't know what else people can possibly do. And I talked about the Wuhan lab leak. I talked about the connections with the Winnipeg lab. Theresa Tam is the one that approved these Chinese spies to take our information, give it to communist China. And again, she's never going to be held accountable. I pressed the wrong button. And people have been speaking out on this for many years. So I'm going to share a few clips. This is from Creighton, David Creighton, I believe his name is. This guy, his video is great. This one here, revealed big win for freedom, stand on guard. I'm going to share just his data on Michael Chong here, and then I'll share another one.
The president, the authorities of the president are to grant security clearances and to oversee the classification of employees and the access of those employees to the lab.
Actually, before I even start, okay, so for the Rumble Content Creator Program, they just threw this at me this month. They're saying that I need to have interactions with people that are watching my channel, and I have to have at least 20 interactions within the month, or I'm not going to be part of the creator program anymore. So even if you do even like one comment on my live streams, then it does count. And so if you don't like my content, then don't do it. But if you want to support my channel and have it where I continue to be a content creator, then that would really help. And again, I'm not doing this for money. I'm not doing this for fame or fortune or anything. Very clearly, I'm spending a lot of money and it's at risk to myself, and it has destroyed my contracts. I still have top secret clearance. I still am incorporated, etc. But I'm not getting hired anywhere in Ottawa right now because everything that I'm sharing goes against what the propaganda machine is pushing, like the Globe and Mail, like Mercedes Stephenson. And I almost forgot to talk about her. Mercedes Stephenson. She is someone that I've known for years. Even when I was working in the special forces, I knew that she had slept with a lot of guys within CanSoftCom, and she was a joke. And so like even and by the way, she put a hit piece together as part of W5, and she was lying about and embellishing a lot of these sexual assault allegations with very high ranking officers within the Canadian Armed Forces. And because of her hit pieces, people like General Vance, who is a hero and a legend, he was forced to resign and step down. And he was the Chief of Defense Staff, which is the highest ranking military member in the Canadian Armed Forces. And he was opposed to mandates. He was opposed to these lockdowns and extreme measures. And he was opposed to forced inoculations and having his soldiers be the guinea pigs for what he thought to be a concerning therapeutic that was not properly tested, etc. And as soon as this hit piece came out, he again had to resign, and then countless others after him, who I've mentioned before as well. And so she's talking about sexual misconduct, despite the fact that she has slept with half of CanSoftCom. And again, I'm saying this as a joke, and I was calling that out just last week as well, again. And I know that she saw that post, and they're pushing such propaganda still, and I'll share that as well. But yeah, the Globe and Mail propaganda, and you have someone that is a WHORE, who again, just the irony and the hypocrisy of her trying to call out heroes and legends who have been of service to Canadians for decades, at home and abroad, destroyed their lives, destroyed their careers, destroyed their families, and a lot of it turned out to be bogus and false. And she's sleeping around with so many different people, and so I had multiple people again reaching out to me after that, guys that are still serving or guys that got out that were released because of the COVID mandates because they refused to get inoculated. Heroes. I can't even say what they were doing, but anyway, so because then it's going to triangulate and she's going to know who these people are. But knew of people that lived with her for certain periods that have told wild stories, and then also confirmed that again, she has been around the block. She loves the guys in uniform, and she also loves destroying their lives when they don't push an agenda that she wants to push. She is disgusting. She's fake news. She's propaganda, and I hope she gets fired someday. She's a traitor to Canada. But anyways, enough on that.
So I think if you could let us know at some, after, if you could let us know, let the clerk of the committee know when the president first became aware of these breaches, because it's material to that that person's responsibility to ensure that security clearances are appropriate at the lab. The president of PIAC exited her role as president of PIAC on February 27th, 2019. A new deputy head was not appointed until May 6th of that year. So there was a period of about 10 weeks in which there was no president of PIAC. So my first question is, was there an interim or acting president of PIAC during that period from the end of February to the beginning of May of 2019?
Yes, as is normal, an interim president would be appointed with delegation during that period.
Who was that? What was that role? Was it an ADM or was it a director general? Like what? Who was president during that period?
The acting president during that period was the chief public health officer.
Chief public health officer. And did that person, the chief public health officer, did she have the delegated authority over security clearances for the lab?
The policy on delegation resides with the deputy head. However, the approval of individual clearances is delegated to the chief security officer of the agency.
Okay, and so that wasn't, the delegation to the chief security officer wasn't just for that interregnum period. It's generally delegated at all times.
Yes, given the volume and size of the agency, the sort of day-to-day decision-making on security clearances resides with the chief security officer.
Okay, and when did the chief security officer first become aware of the national security issues at the lab?
So my understanding is that in August of 2018, subsequent to a briefing that was given for general awareness by the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, that the potential concerns regarding the vulnerability of lab employees to potential influence were flagged to the service, and fact-finding began, and that in September, potential issues began to be identified, and the chief security officer wasn't.
So I show you that. I know it's rather low key.
I'm going to share just more on Michael Chong. This was from a year ago. And he's been talking about this for years, trying to call out the traitors in Canada and the connections to China, communist China, and traitors to our country, including Theresa Tam.
We finally have the documents. This is the start of this matter, not the end. We are going to
Is
continue.
Globe and Mail reporting this? No, they are not. Is Propaganda CBC reporting this? No, they are not.
The work that we were doing 3 years ago when the Canada-China Committee asked for the Winnipeg lab documents. We have to conduct this work because the government isn't going to. The government has said, and Minister Holland more specifically, that no one within the Public Health Agency of Canada is going to be held accountable and terminated for these lapses at the Winnipeg lab. So Parliament has to hold the government accountable and do its job. This is a grave and serious matter that requires a parliamentary committee to examine. Dr. Chiu clandestinely collaborated with the government and the military of the PRC and was paid by that government and military of the PRC without the government of Canada knowing. The Winnipeg lab is part of a broader pattern of neglect of national security by this government. We have these Winnipeg lab breaches. We have the neglect of sensitive areas of research at Canadian universities that has gone on for years. Sensitive areas of research in areas like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, biotechnology, and so many other areas. We have the neglect to protect our democratic institutions and our elections, which is why the government was forced to call a public inquiry, which is ongoing. And in all of this, the Prime Minister has been absent. In Open and Accountable Government, which is one of the government's founding cabinet documents, the Prime Minister is uniquely accountable for national security. That document also says that the Prime Minister alone is responsible for the machinery of government. In other words, the Prime Minister alone is responsible for the flow of intelligence and information between the different agencies and departments of the Government of Canada. The motion which I plan on moving in front of committee today is to examine the flow of information and intelligence within the Government of Canada. It's to examine why this matter wasn't caught earlier than September 2018. As you'll recall, it was in September 2018 that the first red flag went up, but the registration of a patent in the People's Republic of China by Dr. Chiu, which is against government policy and Canadian law. The motion is also to examine why it took 10 months for the government to secure the lab after September 2018. All the while, computers were being seized, trips were being denied for approval that have been applied to by Dr. Chiu to the PRC. It's also to examine why government systems didn't flag the 5 trips that Dr. Chiu had taken to the PRC in a 2-year period in 2017 and 2018. The motion will also examine why the documents ordered by the Canada-China Committee 3 years ago were not given to Parliament. Minister Holland has said that it's the fault of the Public Health Agency of Canada, that it was a decision of bureaucrats not to release these documents 3 years ago to the Public Health Agency of Canada. And that's why the motion includes the committee calling witnesses from the Public Health Agency of Canada to explain why these documents were overclassified and why it took 3 years for these documents to be produced. Finally, we have to hold the government accountable. The government defied 4 orders of the House of Commons and its committee in 2021. It then took the unprecedented step of taking the Speaker of the House of Commons to court and then called an early election. And so Parliament has its work cut out for it. It has a job to do to examine this matter and to hold the government accountable. Thank you.
Mr. Chung, are you satisfied with how long the RCMP investigation has taken into this? Should it be going faster?
Well, that's a matter that we'll be peripherally touching on by looking at why it took so long for this matter to be uncovered in September 2018, and why it took so long for the lab to be secured, and why it took 3 years for Parliament to get this information. In all of this, things are taking far too long. And so in discovering that, it is our hope that the committee can produce a report with recommendations that will shorten the timeframes for the flow of intelligence and information to ensure that breaches like this are dealt with in a much more timely manner.
And what about the security of the lab now? Are you satisfied that the lab is adequately secure?
No, I'm not. And that's another reason for this examination by Parliament. Minister Holland has contradicted some of the information contained in the documents that were released last week. He has said that there were no actual breaches at the lab. He's also indicated that no information left the country. That's contradicted many times in the documents that we received last week. And that's why we think Parliament has a job to do here in order to dig into this matter further, to understand what has gone wrong, and to issue a report with recommendations.
Avez-vous l'impression que ça pourrait donc se reproduire s'il n'y a pas eu d'amélioration d'apportée ou si le laboratoire n'a pas été sécurisé ou si on n'a pas revu les façons de faire?
Oui, on doit examiner cet enjeu. Je pense que les documents, c'est un commencement de notre étude devant le comité. Je pense qu'on a besoin d'examiner l'autre chose qui concerne cet enjeu. On a besoin d'avoir des témoins devant notre comité, des témoins de l'Agence de la santé publique du Canada, témoins de les ministres qui a dit qu'il n'y a pas de problème ici et qu'ils ont dit que le problème a été déjà réglé. On n'a pas cette confiance que le gouvernement a maintenant. Donc, c'est la raison pour laquelle on présente cette motion aujourd'hui.
Et qui a caché, selon vous, les fonctionnaires ou est-ce que les ministres étaient
J'ai aucune
véritablement-
idée. C'est la raison pour notre étude. Le ministre a blâmé les fonctionnaires. On a un peu de scepticisme parce que c'était le gouvernement c'est le cabinet dans la Chambre des communes qui a dit non à un comité du Parlement il y a 3 ans pour présenter ces documents. Donc, je pense que
So what he's basically saying is that he doesn't have any trust in the government, that this has been pushed to cabinet, to the House of Commons, and they refuse to take a look at this, which they should absolutely be doing, but they're not, because again, these people are nominated and confirmed by the Prime Minister. And it's the Governor General who rubber stamps it, but it's very much ceremonial, and she does not have any say or confirmation, whatever you want to call it, regulatory oversight in order to even deny these nominations from being pushed forward. And we have a lot of the same people that were working in cabinet, criminals during the Trudeau regime, that are now working for Con Carney. And I will reiterate, he was the financial advisor during COVID, and he destroyed our country, destroyed it during that period. And now he's the prime minister.
ministre et le Premier ministre ont une responsabilité dans
Minister has
cet enjeu
responsibility.
maintenant. Et c'est pas, à mon avis, c'est
In his
pas,
opinion,
c'est
it's not
pas
right.
correct pour le Premier ministre et les ministres a dit que c'est totalement la responsabilité des fonctionnaires. C'est pas mon point de vue.
Just to clarify, what are the specific questions you think that this committee needs to answer that wasn't already outlined in hundreds of pages of these documents?
Well, first off, why did it take so long for these breaches to be discovered at the Winnipeg lab? The first red flag goes up in September 2018, despite the fact that for several years beforehand, for a couple of years beforehand, these breaches had been taking place. At least five trips that we know of to the People's Republic of China, which involved unauthorized visits to PRC entities and unauthorized transmission of information and materials, unauthorized payments
Sounds like Tim Walz
by the
too.
PRC and by the PLA of travel within the PRC. We need to examine why, when the first red flag went up, according to these documents, in 2018, it took 10 months to secure the lab. We need to understand when the Prime Minister first became aware of these national security breaches. And finally, we need to understand why we didn't get these documents 3 years ago. We've lost 3 years in examining this matter because there was an overclassification of these documents and Parliament didn't get the information it should have gotten. The process that we had proposed for the Canada-China Committee to get these documents was very similar to the process that the ad hoc committee of 4 MPs and 3 judges went through. In lieu of the 3 judges, we had the law clerk and parliamentary counsel who was going to work closely with government officials to redact the documents. They were going to be delivered to Parliament under lock and key, and no information injurious to national security was going to be released. That's essentially the same process that was outlined, that was conducted by the ad hoc committee. Yet it took us 3 years to get these documents. So we need to understand what breakdown in information systems took place that caused this debacle, that caused this delay of 3 years in getting this information.
Do you think you have wide support with the other members of the committee for this motion?
Well, I hope so. As I said, this is a grave and serious matter. CSIS assessed that this was a serious danger, a serious threat to the security of Canada. The fact that it's taken us 3 years to get to this point should concern all parliamentarians, and I'm hopeful that at today's meeting, the motion will be adopted that will allow this committee, which is responsible for access to information, to get to the bottom of this matter, to issue a report with recommendations so we can strengthen this country's national security and hold the government accountable.
If it doesn't, what does that say to you?
Well, it says that the Liberal government, in support with the NDP, is covering things up and is not looking to Canada's interests in protecting our national security. This is part of a broader pattern. I mentioned the interference in our federal elections and in our democratic institutions. I mentioned the ongoing serious national security threats and theft of intellectual property, which is taking place in sensitive areas of research across the country that CSIS for almost a decade now has been drawing attention to. And so I think we have a responsibility of parliamentarians to set aside partisanship when it comes to these kinds of matters and hold the government accountable so that we can ensure that our national security is strengthened. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So he's been calling this up. This was over a year ago, and what has happened since? Carney gets elected under false pretenses, and he hires basically the same cabinet. It is so disgusting to me and to so many other people, and our voices are getting stifled, to say the least. I keep doing that. Press the wrong button. I'm going to go into some of my stories just so that I can stay on track because I've been all over the place. My apologies for that. And again, this is more of Canadian craziness.
Coming out today, apparently by September 2025, everybody in the Metro Vancouver area has to now register their fireplaces or wood-burning stoves, because Canada is definitely not going down communist lane, right? And I know I'm going to get a bunch of progressives in the comment sections that are going to tell me I don't know what communism is, but let's just face it, you guys wouldn't know communism if it mushroom slapped you in the face. But let me just show you this. In some parts of Canada, specifically within Metro Vancouver, you're required to register your wood-burning appliances, like stoves and fireplaces. This registration is part of a bylaw aimed at reducing emissions from residential indoor wood burning. It's not a nationwide requirement, but regions like Metro Vancouver have implemented these regulations to address air quality concerns. And you can go to the metrovancouver.org website and kind of see what they want. And you're not allowed to actually use your wood burning stove or indoor burning devices from May 15th to September 15th. And you also must declare your use of best burning practices. Now, what most people don't understand.
All right, so that was true.
More news from Communist Canada coming out today. Apparently by September 2020.
I'm trying to go on the original post, but it's not allowing me to, so I will go back to that. But you get
why,
Mr. Roman.
I posted that over 5 days ago.
Who's this woman in the red shirt?
The Public Health Agency of Canada made a shock.
This is allowing me to show it.
The Public Health Agency of Canada made a shocking admission this week in response to an order paper question from Conservative MP Kathy Wagenthal. The agency released startling data acknowledging that booster recipients have a noticeably higher death rate than the unvaccinated. The data indicates a 3 to 5-fold increase in death rates amongst those who have 2 or more vaccine doses compared to the unvaccinated across all data groups. So that's pretty powerful admission, Mark.
I don't have time to go through the approximately 100 plus doctors who are the best doctors in the country who warned against these shots. And here it is. Public Health Agency of Canada. You take these shots, you're 3 to 5 times as likely to be dead.
With this data coming out, anybody who continues to push the shots should be charged criminally.
Oh, for sure.
The Public Health Agency of Canada made a shocking admission this week in
lawsuit.
Why?
I found the video already.
Who's this?
I'll go back to it.
The Public Health Agency.
It's a conspiracy nut job, right?
You have to watch this video of the ex-CDC director who is right there in the development of the COVID vaccine. In this video, he's now blowing the whistle of what really happened during the trials of the development of the COVID vaccine. Watch.
Should have never been mandated. And as you point out, the vaccine should have been communicated to the American public, I think honestly, which is these vaccines do not prevent infection. So that argument, get vaccinated so you don't infect your grandma. No, being vaccinated doesn't stop you from infecting grandma.
Okay, so let's go right there, because you were right there in developing the COVID vaccine. At what point did you recognize this vaccine doesn't stop transmission?
Beginning. And no evidence that it
from the very beginning, meaning phase 1 trial, 2 trials.
Yeah, there are trials, the registrational trials that both Moderna and Pfizer presented, no evidence of preventing infection.
Look, at this point, it's not even about whether they lied. It's about how long they thought they could get away with it. They knew from day one it didn't stop transmission, but they still pushed the do it for your grandma guilt trip. And people fell for it. They manipulated, shamed, and bullied people into compliance, all while knowing the actual truth. They had zero proof this thing stopped transmission from day one. But instead of telling the public, they went full steam ahead with the mandates, the social pressure, and they tore families apart. Because if they admitted it didn't work the way they claimed, how many people would actually roll up their sleeves? So what they did is what they always do. They censored, they banned, they destroyed anyone who questioned them. They didn't argue the science. They erased the conversation. Doctors were silenced, experts were deplatformed, people were fired, all to protect a lie. And now they act like it's just another oops, no apology, no accountability, just a casual, yeah, we knew all along, like it didn't wreck lives, like it didn't push people into losing their jobs, relationships, losing everything in some cases. And look, whether you got the shot or not, the spike protein exposure is real. It doesn't just stay in one place. We know that now. So the odds are it's still in your system. So that's why I've been personally using the McCullough protocol. It's a spike protein.
I'm just going to show the VAERS. I've shared this so many times to people on my channel. I just think that we really need to unpack this. This is from February of 2021 released VAERS adverse events reports. And February of 2021, people were contracting COVID via inoculation, and even ChatGPT and other programs will, and other experts will say that only like such a significant, people are saying 3 to 5% of the VAERS were actually reported. Some people are saying like 1%, but again, it's definitely not over 10%. And again, this is me being bold and being very generous of VAERS that were actually reported during this time, because there was financial incentive to do so, to bury this information. So people were contracting COVID via inoculation. Infections and infestations, 4.6% of the VAERS reported were, again, people contracting COVID via that. And so this is from March of 2022. People had to get sued in order to get this information out. I'm just going to go back. And let me see if you can see this first. Sometimes it bumps me out. Yeah, okay, so here you go. So again, February 2021, people knew that just Pfizer alone, again, we're not even counting AstraZeneca, we're not counting Moderna, we're not counting J&J or any of these other ones, Novavax, this is just Pfizer alone. And again, very much underreported because of criminals and traitors to Canada and the world. And so this as well, you'll see here, just gotta go back to it now. Coronavirus infections, asymptomatic COVID-19, 21, COVID-19, 2,567, 41 fatalities. People were dying from getting the jab. And again, this is, again, very much underreported. I'm being generous by saying 3 to 5% being reported. And people knowingly were pushing this jab, injecting people with this shot, knowing that people were dying. And again, this is not even it, COVID-19 pneumonia, because they like to break it down and into other different subcategories, so you can't get the full numbers in one kind of line. And so 52 people contracted COVID pneumonia via inoculation. 15 of those died. Coronavirus infection, 7. Post-acute COVID-19 syndrome, 8. Suspected COVID-19, 88. Severe acute respiratory syndrome. And suspected COVID-19, again here, also with the fatalities. So many other VAERS as well that were listed, as you can see. A lot of pages of this. And people like Theresa Tam and Patty Hajdu and Vera Etches. And I sent so many emails to literally every single member of cabinet, including Marco Menincino as well in that. And I was gaslit. I would call. Oh, we're going to get back to you. We're going to follow up. Oh, this is important. Blah, blah, blah. Nothing back. I contacted so many different mainstream media outlets, tip lines, you friggin' name it, the Ombudsman, Pierre Poilievre, so many different people, and no one was looking at the data that I was giving. I was giving medical, scientific, and government data that should have ended this pandemic and the forced inoculations and the mandates and the extreme restrictions that were put in place. But no one was looking at this. So this is willful ignorance, willful censorship. And are they going to be held accountable? Probably not. Oh my goodness. And so I'm going to stop sharing that for now and get back to my my other posts. Absolutely disgusting. So this is the full video because this is important as well. I know I'm going all over the place.
News from Communist Canada coming out today. Apparently by September 2025, everybody in the Metro Vancouver area has to now register their fireplaces or wood-burning stoves, because Canada is definitely not going down communist lane, right? And I know I'm going to get a bunch of progressives in the comment sections that are going to tell me I don't know what communism is, but let's just face it, you guys wouldn't know communism if it mushroom slapped you in the face. But let me just show you this. In some parts of Canada, specifically within Metro Vancouver, you're required to register your wood-burning appliances like stoves and fireplaces. This registration is part of a bylaw aimed at reducing emissions from residential indoor wood burning. It's not a nationwide requirement, but regions like Metro Vancouver have implemented these regulations to address air quality concerns. And you can go to the metrovancouver.org website and kind of see what they want. And you're not allowed to actually use your wood burning stove or indoor burning devices from May 15th to September 15th. And you also must declare your use of best burning practices. Now, what most people don't understand is these are just pilot projects in certain areas that they know they were going to get the highest compliance. And with the people that don't comply, apparently it's a $500 fine. And they're also saying that you can only burn wood for 15 minutes for every 4 hours of the day that you're using the wood stove. It's almost like they don't understand how like wood burning works, even though they're lighting half of Canada on fire in the name of global climate change and to keep taxing you more. But hey, whatever. Good times, I swear. And so then what happens is when they hash out all of the issues that they're having in Vancouver with wood burning stoves, then they're going to actually implement it nationwide. And that is how the World Economic Forum works and how these NGOs work and why they're having certain pilot projects in certain countries and cities, because that is how they're going to hash out the details on how to implement it worldwide. So a lot of people in rural areas, specifically in the north, like where I was, we use wood burning stoves, and we also use, fireplaces to supplement the heat, because it's very expensive to run heating in Canada because of all of the taxes and regulations and over regulations. Now, I'm kind of asking this, if regulations really did work, because look at California. That is the most heavily regulated state in almost all of North America. And by that standard, they should be a utopia, shouldn't they? But they're not. They're a complete and absolute train wreck. And so I don't understand how some of you guys don't see this over-regulation and overstepping of government boundaries to tell you how to run your home and how to use the things that you have in your home in order for you to save money, which the government clearly doesn't want and is using these green initiative deals and green initiative propaganda to get to control what you do in your home. When will be enough? You know what I mean? More news from...
Yeah, I can confirm that as well. Even with the carbon tax, for me, for example, I use propane in order to heat my house, but I also have a wood burning stove. And my home insurance, because major banks now, they won't, their insurance companies, they won't even approve you for insurance. And by the way, you need to have insurance in order to even qualify for a mortgage. And again, this to me is also a friggin' scam. My home insurance went up from, it was $50 a month to over $350 a month, because major insurance companies will not even insure homes if you have a friggin' fireplace. It's disgusting to me, and how they justify it is just nonsensical. And again, when you're heating with propane, the carbon tax that they're tacking on to that, which is ridiculous. After they add that in, they're also taxing you on that tax. So again, they're stealing money from people in rural areas, blue collar, farmer, hard workers, truckers, etc. These are generally people from, or used to be from, rural areas. And so again, people like Mark Carney have been destroying the rural areas as well, and making it where even living is becoming unaffordable in rural areas. And so it's absolutely disgusting to me. And are people going to comply? Likely, because we've been doing that since day one anyways. Just wild to me. Okay, moving on.
Lawsuit again.
Wow.
Who's this?
More answers, by the way.
You have.
Okay, so now I'm going to get into my actual stories to see if they're still on. Oh,
People got their first vaccination, and then they had to wait 2 weeks, and then they got their second vaccination. And according to regulators, they weren't vaccinated until 2 weeks after that.
For the first 2 weeks after you had been injected, you're classified as unvaccinated. And that's true after the second dose in the case of a 2-dose vaccine.
30 days past vaccination administered within the past 30 days. That's what that says.
It's a statistical sleight of hand, delaying the time at which they assign the word vaccinated to an individual.
All of those people who died within that time frame will be reported as having been unvaccinated.
If you then compare on a chart people who died who were unvaccinated and vaccinated, we would be shown a wrong cohort of people that died after vaccination.
So if you replotted that data by defining these people properly as injected or uninjected, it's a very important distinction when you're talking about immunological effects, side effects, reactions.
We're actually seeing vaccine injuries, but according to their own established timelines, these people were unvaccinated.
These people developed these very serious, life-threatening adverse events within 30 days of their first COVID vaccine dose.
People got their first vaccination, and then they had to wait 2 weeks, and then they got their second.
The public health agency.
Do I have your attention?
I've talked about this in other videos, but I just want to read this out. Has the CDC done a study comparing vaccinated children with unvaccinated children yet? We have never studied vaccinated versus unvaccinated. And the fact that in the US and Canada, like we're not far off, has 72 inoculations before the age of 18 or by the age of 18. And there's never been any studies done on the cumulative effects of these vaccines on children. Again, oftentimes when they're going in, they're getting multiple shots at the same time. And people are completely dismissing that. And so people that have children that were normal and healthy that went in for these shots and came out with so many different adverse events, including death, like SIDS. SIDS is connected to vaccines. And I know how that sounds, but we need to look into it. I'm not saying all, but many. It's just, again, there's just so much to unpack. I'm going to get into my ChatGPT conversations about that. Never been tested.
This is massive news, and
Again, more corruption.
This is
Mario.
massive news, and what I believe is a perfect example of government corruption. Watch this. For those who don't know, this is Sheila Copps. She used to be the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada for the Liberal Party. This story is mind-blowing. Her company, she filed a lawsuit against another company that she says she helped get $2 billion worth of contracts. The company BTNX is the company that got these tests that we were all using back in 2021 and 2022. Sheila alleges that she introduced them to Health Canada, and she was known as a Liberal heavyweight who has turned to become a lobbyist. Now, this is where it gets interesting, and this statement's very important. She said, I checked with the lobbying office, and because I'm not being paid to lobby, I'm not a lobbyist. I'm a salesman. Basically, she's saying that because she helped sell this company to Health Canada, she's owed over $100 million. That's what her lawsuit alleges. But that company, BTNX, based out of Pickering, Ontario, they landed the largest federal medical supply contract during that time. And their defense is, if she actually did this and helped us, she did this illegally because she was not registered as a lobbyist. Sheila's company is called MediPro, and she's saying we're owed $100 million. For 23 years, Sheila served as an MP and an MPP. And if the allegations that BTNX defense team is saying are true, then the professor of public policy, this is massive news, and what I believe is a perfect example of government corruption. This is massive news.
It's a conspiracy nut.
You have to watch this. This is nuts. The Liberal Party.
This is another one. From Mario again. This guy is great. See, the Order of Canada, why not this guy? Why not him?
This is nuts. The Liberal Party had two choices. Choice number one, deport those who are foreigners with criminal convictions, or two, forgive them. Take a guess which one they chose. Yes, they forgave them. In fact, thousands of foreigners with criminal convictions were forgiven by Ottawa over an 11-year span. And you want to know what the crazy part is? We don't even know the extent of what the convictions were. And in fact, there's 17,500 people, foreigners with criminal convictions in Canada that were forgiven. The Liberals' immigration department forgave those convictions. This is absolutely nuts. It's disgusting. And this is exactly why our streets are not safe. I showed up at a customer's house today, personally to meet them, to introduce myself to them, and to let them know that I'm a real guy and I own this company, Durafilm. They told me that their family member in Scarborough was just broken into. They broke the person's skull with a hammer. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Businesses like mine should not exist, but the reason they exist is to keep Canadians safe from madness like this. We have so much uncontrolled crime thanks to the Liberals. We definitely know that there's at least 17,500 foreigners that came to our country that had their criminal convictions disappear just so they can stay in the country. Guys, I'm telling you, it is much worse. This is nuts. The Liberal Party had two choices. This is nuts. The Liberal
Canada's election commissioners come out and declare that there is no evidence that foreign interference, AI manipulation, or voter intimidation affected the April 2025 federal election in any way. No evidence. There were over 16,000 complaints, 7 times more than in the last election, and investigations are still ongoing. How many investigations, you ask? 14,000 of the 16.
Oh, November. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting who we're allowing to enter into Canada, and people that are claiming asylum and refugee status that are not coming from war-torn areas or anything like that. They're fleeing convictions. There are even people that were heads of governments, like chiefs of police in areas like Africa. I've given that example where I know people that work for CBSA, even in one of the busiest terminals in Montreal, saying that there were photos of crimes against humanity, against children by these individuals, and they were allowed. They're in Canada. They're in Canada as I freaking speak, and I say this, and or alleging that they're bisexual, even though they're coming here with their wives and their children. There are people that are here that have multiple wives in multiple different countries, and we're not even verifying or validating or checking into that either, because our legal system is overrun because of all the immigration that we've pushed in the last, especially in the last 5 years alone. And if you think it's getting better, it's not. Unfortunately, there was over 500,000 people that have came into Canada seeking asylum. A lot of them unwarranted, even in the last few months alone.
15,000 are still unresolved. The commissioner even admits this is the case, yet somehow she's already concluded that the election interference did not in any way affect the outcome. So let's look at some of the interference we know occurred. Canada's own Election Threat Task Force, SITE, confirmed China ran an information operation on WeChat promoting Mark Carney's campaign. Zhou Te, a pro-democracy candidate and vocal critic of the Chinese Communist Party, had a significant bounty placed on his head by Hong Kong authorities. He was targeted with disinformation and intimidation across Chinese language platforms and had to cancel his in-person campaigning because CSIS said there were credible threats on his life. We know for certain that China, India, and Russia have interfered in Canadian elections, as reported by the Hogue Commission, which found that several foreign states have not only interfered in our elections, but tried to destabilize the country. Meanwhile, in March of 2025, mid-election cycle, the Digital Forensics Research Lab, an extension of the Atlantic Council, sounded the alarm that AI-powered disinformation, including political deepfakes, were an existential threat and the single biggest risk to Canadian democracy right now. So let's be honest, this commissioner's report isn't incompetence, it's a cover-up, it's damage control. And it will effectively convince many Canadians that everything in Canada is fine because over 85% of mainstream Canadian media is subsidized by the government, and 90% of news Canadians consume comes from a government-subsidized source.
Yep.
That means the very people who benefit from keeping the Liberals in power are the ones shaping the headlines you're reading. And this no interference narrative, well, it's everywhere. So don't be fooled. This is a coordinated PR campaign cooked up by the Liberal government using Commissioner Caroline Simard as the mouthpiece and their loyal propaganda machine in the press to push the narrative and bury the truth. We have thousands of Canadians raising red flags, ongoing investigations, confirmed foreign activity, and yet the commissioner says it's time to move on. Just trust the process, and above all else, do not ask any questions. So the real question is, with everything we know, how can anyone possibly claim that foreign interference, AI manipulation, or voter intimidation did not affect the recent Canadian federal election? And this is not to say foreign interference did sway the results. The truth is, we don't know because they won't tell us. In fact, they won't even process the complaints to find out. And no, this isn't some conspiracy. It isn't even a theory. It's very clearly a broken system trying to protect itself. If our democracy was truly healthy, the media would be demanding answers like me. Instead, they're running interference for, well, interference. Canada's election commissioners come out.
Yeah, that was just me sharing the.
We used to have empires run by emperors. Then we had kingdoms run by kings. Now we just have
countries run by cunts. Sorry, I just had to say it. All right, because it's true. All right, I'm going to get into my X feed now, because again, a lot of this information is very relevant right now. Canada is in dire straits. This was from the Globe and Mail. Again, an organization that people like Mercedes Stephenson and other friggin' morons work for. And I'm just going to pull this post up. It's from the Globe and Mail. It's supposed to be more, I did it again, it's supposed to be more right-wing. What a joke. This Canada Day, we reclaimed our flag. This is from Gary Mason. It looks like a boomer. Looks like a leftist communist boomer. But anyway, a survey from the Angus Reid Institute, because they're so reliable, says 72% of Canadians say they believe you can have a good quality of life in this country. In late January 2022, dozens of trucks and tractor trailers arrived in the nation's capital to take part in a protest. What started out as a rebellion against COVID-19 protocols morphed into something else, something bigger and more disturbing. It became a demonstration against Canada itself. There were reports of a manifesto that imagined the protesters taking over the federal government. Patience among those living in downtown Ottawa wore out. Residents demanded their city back. By Family Day weekend in February, police had moved in to arrest dozens of protesters and remove scores of vehicles that had occupied the precinct around Parliament Hill. Somewhere along the way, the dissidents stole our flag. You'll remember this. The same people who broke the law by ignoring city bylaws and disrupting the peace for nearly a month proclaimed themselves Canadian patriots. They flew our flag from their trucks. They hung it over their encampments. By the end, many Canadians associated the red and white maple leaf with the so-called Freedom Convoy. For a long time after, whenever you saw a truck going down the streets bearing a Canadian flag, you likely thought Freedom Convoy lover. Many of us were afraid to hang a flag outside our homes on Canada Day for fear of being associated with a bunch who had occupied our capital and tried to bully our government. Not anymore. Pride in this country is swelling. There are many reasons for that, of course, not the least of which is U.S. President Donald Trump. When he threatened us with economic damnation through tariffs and suggested we become America's 51st state, we were at first flabbergasted and then angry. We have mostly banded together in solidarity against his actions. The past few months have been an epiphany for many of us. We have watched news reports showing masked officers under the direction of the U.S. president apprehending people on American streets. By the way, they're talking about ICE, and they're supposed to protect their identities, you moron. We have seen some of them sent to prisons in South America on false pretenses. We have watched people ride in the streets of Los Angeles, seen prestigious universities cowed into silence, witnessed an unrelenting attack on free press, observed an undermining of the legitimacy of science. All in America. How is this possible? When we travel the world and wear a Canadian flag, we are reminded how lucky we are to live where we do. No matter where you go, people embrace this country and those of us who call it home. Canada, you learn, is noted for something worldwide. It's goodness. That's something to be proud of, not embarrassed by. For Canada Day, a nation with elbows up asks how it should party down. Fresh polling confirms all this. The Angus Reid Institute has just released a survey that shows 72% of Canadians believe you can have a good quality of life in this country. About 80% said they are proud, to various degrees, to be a Canadian. Optimism for the future is up. Meantime, a new Environnex poll indicates that around 9 out of 10 of us are either very or somewhat attached to Canada. Over the past year, the number who say they are very attached has increased from 51 to 57%. Of course, not everyone feels the same way. There are regional differences. Many living in Alberta and Saskatchewan who don't share the same warm and fuzzy feeling about this country that exists in other parts of Canada. At least not the same degree, and that's okay. Still, I will not forget how loudly the fans of the Edmonton Oilers sang "Oh Canada" before the start of every Stanley Cup playoff game in their home arena. This is all somewhat of a relief. The period after the occupation of the capital in the midst of the pandemic was not fun. Oh, it wasn't fun. People fighting for your freedom to even say this. This is what I mean. Left and right media funded over $1 billion annually, and again, it's all propaganda. And the lead up to the federal election, as we recently saw, can always contribute to some soul searching, as politicians hoping to form government try and hammer home just how much is wrong with Canada. That's their job. But sometimes they can be almost too good at it, convincing us that we are a failed nation, that we aren't as good as we used to be, that we don't have as much to fight for as we once did. And they couldn't be more wrong. This Canada Day, I am more thankful than ever that I have a Canadian passport. You just have to look around at this crazy world to see that. Are things perfect? No, and they never will be. We're always striving for better. Perhaps the best thing about Canada Day is this: we have our flag back. May it never be hijacked again. This is so disgusting. Gary Mason, what a sellout to Canada. And the Freedom Convoy, again, this movement that happened, like people that actually were involved in it, grassroots, that actually, I'm just gonna leave it at that, because again, it's like my mind is just friggin' blown. But again, you'll see a lot of people that are reporting on this or commenting on this. So this is from Don Wilson. No, 4 years ago, you chose 6 million Canadians to be your enemy, and then you found out. Welcome back. Don't make the mistake again. Is elbows up, down? Gary Mason Globe talking about this flag, our Canadian flag, which liberals hated. Sorry for stealing your flag. Boomer mail at the Globe and fail. No need to wait. It's gotten stale and stinks of betrayal beyond pale. Keep it. There's some people at protest burning our flag. When the Freedom Convoy waved the flag, they didn't say, this is our flag, not yours. They said, we love Canada and we are taking action to restore our Canadian freedoms. You seem to think that took something away from you and that you have to take it away from us. From Watcher, garbage piece written by one of the shittiest, most divisive assholes employed by Canada's state-sponsored media. From Starving Artist, 3 years ago, you called it a far-right symbol of extreme hate. So yeah, your opinion doesn't have much value. The Canadian flag has and always will belong to Canada and Canadians. Yeah, so his crime during the Freedom Convoy, carrying a flag and protesting for freedom. Yeah. So this is the medicine for a problem you cannot resolve. Food bank use in Toronto breaks records. Food banks all across Canada are breaking records over the last few years. Yep. Once again, I disagree with Mason. The convoy in Ottawa didn't steal the Canadian flag. The last PM did that when he mandated it be flown at half-mast for more than 5 months. Mason says patriotism is surging, but frames it around anti-American sentiment. That's false patriotism. I totally agree with that. Hypocrites, you made me hate the flag. I was very proud of it during the convoy before the tyrannical government decided to freeze bank accounts and send the cavalry against the peaceful protesters. I can't say what this says. Oh my God. But yeah, so like this guy is getting ratioed, clearly. You got some idiot. Oh no, actually, sorry, I'm not saying idiot. This guy's being ironic. Never mind. Don't be fooled. The activists at the Globe hate Canada to its foundations. Get another one. Your test came back. The Freedom Convoy used the flag to represent genuine patriotism to a nation of free people and individual rights. Carney and his team of dialectic engineers have managed to retask it to mean loyalty to state narratives and nothing to do with Canada as a people, culture. Where did that go? Culture or history at all. They did it. They did not reclaim it. They just swapped it out for a hammer and sickle. I don't disagree with that. Yeah. So again, this guy's getting ratioed. So again, faith in humanity restored a little bit. I commented as well. I said, no, you did not. Fake news propaganda. Yeah. More communism coming into effect in Canada. All right, now on to ChatGPT. Conservative MP Michael Chong has been actively involved in scrutinizing security protocols at Canada's National Microbiology Laboratory, NML, in Winnipeg, particularly concerning collaborations with the People's Republic of China. He's talked about the security concerns. I already shared that. So this is the video I shared. I asked ChatGPT to give me one. So then I was asking about, can you please share conflicts of interest Carney has with AI, green energy, housing? Mark Carney, Canada's Prime Minister and former executive at Brookfield Asset Management, has faced scrutiny over potential conflicts of interest related to his previous roles and financial holdings. Here's an overview of key areas of concern. Green energy and climate finance. Carney's tenure at Brookfield involved leading its ESG, environmental, social, and governance, and impact investing strategies. Notably, he helped raise over $25 billion for Brookfield's transition fund, again, taxpayers' money largely, focused on decarbonizing large companies. This fund includes investments in sectors such as nuclear energy, carbon capture, wind turbines, and green hydrogen. Critics argue that Carney's advocacy for green policies both domestically and internationally could indirectly benefit Brookfield's investments. For instance, policies promoting clean energy infrastructure may enhance the value of assets held by Brookfield, potentially impacting Carney's financial interests. Housing and real estate. Brookfield has significant investments in real estate, including affordable and prefabricated housing projects. Carney's housing policies, which emphasizes densification and affordable housing development, align with Brookfield's investment interests. This alignment raises questions about whether policy decisions could favor entities in which Carney has had financial stakes. We are in a housing crisis in Canada. Affordability, the cost of houses in Canada, especially in major centers, is through the roof. And this finally is coming out. It's directly in relation to, again, his companies and what they're pushing. And again, the immigration policies that have been out of control, especially in the last 5 years. First, ChatGPT was saying there was no direct involvement with AI companies and Carney, but again, I'm going to get to that. Talked about the blind trust. I've talked about that before. I asked if his friends or wife had any connections to AI. So climate policy expert Diana Fox-Carney. Diana Fox-Carney is a British Canadian economist specializing in climate and development policy. She has held advisory roles at organizations such as Eurasia Group and Willis Towers Watson's Climate Resiliency Hub. While her work focuses on environmental and social justice causes, there is no public record of her involvement in AI-related ventures, but again, look what she's into. Evan Solomon, Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation. Evan Solomon, a former journalist and friend of Mark Carney, was appointed as Canada's first Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation. Solomon has a history of professional interactions with Carney, including art brokerage dealings. Again, these were criminal in nature, some of them, all of them. His appointment has raised questions about potential conflicts of interest due to their past associations. Under Carney's leadership, the Canadian government has entered into partnerships with AI companies, notably Cohere, a Toronto-based AI firm. These collaborations aim to advance AI safety and infrastructure. While these initiatives are part of national policy, they also highlight the government's active role in the AI sector. So I said, is he part of WEF or has he been? I already knew the answer to that. Yes, Mark Carney has been closely affiliated with the World Economic Forum for many years. WEF leadership roles and participation. Board of Trustees. Carney has served as member of the WEF's Board of Trustees, which is one of the organization's highest level advisory bodies. This board shapes the WEF's long-term strategy and global initiatives, not a globe. Featured speaker and advisor. He has frequently spoken at Davos, the WEF's annual meeting, especially on topics related to climate change and sustainability, central banking and global financial stability, the transition to green energy, stakeholder capitalism, champion of ESG and Great Reset themes. Carney has promoted environmental, social, and governance investing, a key pillar of the WEF's global strategy, and has been associated with aspects of the Great Reset narrative through his speeches on reimagining capitalism and transitioning to a low-carbon economy. Dual roles, public and private sector influence. While serving as governor of the Bank of England, UN Special Envoy on Climate Action and Finance, Vice Chair of Brookfield Asset Management. He continued appearing at WEF panels and strategy sessions, reflecting deep integration between his public service and private financial roles aligned with WEF goals. So again, he's been a key player. Is WEF pushing AI? I already know the answer to that. I know you do too. Yes, the World Economic Forum is actively pushing the development, integration, and governance of artificial intelligence on a global scale. Again, not a globe. But anyway, WEF's AI focus areas: AI governance and ethics. WEF has launched initiatives like the Global AI Action Alliance, Gaia, to promote responsible AI development. Responsible my ass. Emphasis is placed on transparency, bias mitigation, human rights, and trustworthy AI. Key documents: Blueprint for AI Governance and Ethical AI Frameworks. Public-private collaboration. WEF works closely with governments, example Canada, UK, UAE, Big Tech, Google, Microsoft, IBM, and international bodies to create AI policy frameworks. It promotes the adoption of AI in government services, healthcare, education, and financial systems. AI and the future of work. The forum has published reports warning of job displacement due to automation, while also promoting reskilling and upskilling programs. Pushes for human-machine collaboration as part of the fourth industrial revolution, biodigital convergence, massive surveillance states. WEF has acknowledged the risk of AI surveillance and social control, especially in authoritarian states. Despite this, it promotes AI-based identity systems, digital public infrastructure, and predictive analytics in policing, which critics argue could be misused. And all these bills that are coming out, Bill C2, Bill C5, these are absolutely authoritarian in nature, and they're going to be targeting people like myself and Mario and countless others throughout Canada who are exposing the truth about this stuff. So major WEF AI initiatives: Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, with hubs in San Francisco, Tokyo, Beijing, and more. This arm of WEF pilots AI-related policies and regulatory frameworks worldwide. AI for Climate uses AI for modeling energy efficiency and carbon tracking, aligning with their ESG and climate finance agenda, which Carney also supports. So would that not connect Carney to AI push in Canada? Yes, Mark Carney's deep involvement with the World Economic Forum, combined with his political and financial leadership roles, does link him indirectly and possibly directly to the AI push in Canada. I don't see, that's what I mean with ChatGPT. It's frustrating because even Evan Solomon, like the Minister of AI, this is a new position. This is his friend that he put in power, and he's been part of corruption. And so how can you, anyway, it is what it is. WEF affiliation and policy alignment. As former WEF Board of Trustee member, Carney has championed WEF-aligned goals like AI for climate modeling, digital identity systems, fourth industrial revolution tech integration. So this guy loves George Soros, loves this guy and the Schwabs of the world. The WEF's AI strategy overlaps heavily with Canadian AI policy initiatives, especially in smart cities. I used to call them 15-minute cities. I have countless videos on that. I've been talking about this since at least 2020, 2021. And so thank you, people like Taggart and Minto and Mattamy for helping with that. Predictive policing, healthcare automation, and digital infrastructure. Brookfield Asset Management, I already talked about that. Smart grids, carbon tracking, ESG compliance tools. Government influence. As former Bank of Canada and Bank of England governor, and now a major political figure in Canada, Carney's views shape national policy. Canada's AI framework, example, the Pan-Canadian AI strategy, includes partnerships with WEF, support for responsible AI, ethical automation across sectors. Carney is in regular contact with leaders like Evan Solomon, now Minister of AI and Digital Innovation, raising questions about advisory influence. So I wanted to just put out a map here for his connections, like maps. So Minister of AI, Evan Solomon, Canadian government, connected to Mark Carney, Brookfield Asset Management and WEF, digital infrastructure, smart cities, Pan-Canadian AI strategy, climate finance, ESG, AI policy in Canada. So again, all connected. It's not the greatest map, but again, that's ChatGPT. Carney, WEF, AI policy and infrastructure. Through his leadership at the World Economic Forum, which is heavily promoting AI globally. Brookfield ESG and digital systems. Brookfield with climate tech and infrastructure investments benefits from smart cities and AI-powered systems. Carney, Canadian government AI strategy. As top political figure, he influences national direction, including through appointments like Evan Solomon. So I asked for a better map, but I didn't get it. just confirming Peter Thiel's involvement in Rumble. By the way, and also him. JD Vance's Neria Capital and Colt Ventures led a funding round for Rumble. This investment aimed to expand Rumble's video platform and launch new cloud services addressing market demand for alternatives to incumbent platforms. And then I just wanted to confirm his connection, Peter Thiel I'm talking about, with Netanyahu. Peter Thiel, co-founder of PayPal and Palantir Technologies, has established notable connections with Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu through business ventures, ideological alignment, and public engagements. Definitely before 2017, but this is on the record. Yeah, so anyway, there's so much more I can talk about. Canada. Oh, Canada. What a mess. There's so much I can talk about, like the failures of the House of Commons, the Senate, these cabinet appointees, and they just don't know what they're talking about. Or maybe they do and they just don't care. Like, that's even worse. And I'm really hoping that at some point we have more people within Canada that step up, people that are part of the legal system, because we need lawyers, we need judges, we need people in law enforcement to step it up, okay, and hold these people accountable. The citizens of Canada, like we are powerless at this point. Like, we have tried so hard to turn this around, and it's not worked. We've been jailed, we've been charged, we've been suspended, we've been outcast, we have had our lives destroyed, and we've done this all to try to help Canada, and we're getting shit on by, if you look at the polls, anywhere between 70 and 82% of Canadians still to this day. Why? Because nothing is changing, and we still have the same propaganda machine pushing bullshit. And so again, it's over to you guys, and I just really hope at some point I get the call so I can go and I can talk on some kind of a committee or panel, and have people like maybe Viva Fry or Mario or countless others, and hold these people to task and ask them the hard questions and give them the data that they're refusing to look at via their emails. But again, if this is aired live, so that everyone in Canada can see these committees or these panels, and hear the questions we're asking, and see how they're being answered, and look at the medical, scientific, and government data that we have provided for years. And I will show the receipts. I will show all my sent messages, all my sent emails, my phone logs, and everything. And you'll see just how hard we have tried and we have failed. We need people, especially people at this point that are vaccinated, to step up, okay, and speak out, because if we don't, we're fucked. Like, respectfully speaking, I don't know how else to say it, because we've just allowed it to just get too ridiculous. And it doesn't look like it's going to get any better. And again, with these bills that are coming out, especially Bill C2, I believe is the one for more censorship, they're calling anyone that exposed the truth about anything, people that are involved in hate crimes. Mark Carney called us criminals. And so, again, this has been a long video. Sorry for that. But on that note, I will leave it at that. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.